Hi everyone. So today I decided to schedule my John Maxwell. Normally I just do it as and when I feel like, but I thought I'd schedule it for today and try it this way for a while just to do my practicing. And for today, the message that I'm focusing on for the leader's heart is leadership in God's economy. So, what does that look like? The scripture that John Maxwell gives us is 2 Corinthians 22, verse 10. Now, when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziel, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal heirs of the house of Judah. So, some leaders step into positions of power out of love and a sense of mission, and other leaders merely to gain power over others and to revel in a smug feeling of superiority. Normally, it doesn't take long to determine which type of leader we're looking at, and leaders can change. Sometimes you see it right away, otherwise, you see it over time. And we had pretty good leaders in Canada, but some of them did change, and as a result, our economy is failing, it's tanking, and many of us are out of work, or we are very highly qualified, sitting at home unemployed, or earning minimum wage. And Canada has been made a laughing stock of because we've had leaders who have gone to India, and India's accused them of being drug users. We've had shootings here in Canada, drive-by shootings, and it's all a result of leadership. It's a result of decisions that people have made. When we look at the scripture, we can see that it took no time in the case of Athaliah to determine what kind of leadership was in question and what she would do. She would do anything to attain and hold her illegitimate title, including murder her own kin. So when we look at leadership, we know that authority is not given to us to better ourselves, just to enlarge our income or social status or to improve our standard of living. It's given to us so that we can be people for others. And if we're not being people for others, then what happens to our countries, to our world, is what is happening now. So, for example, I was quite shocked to see that Wits has put out an article, which is an opinion piece, basically saying that Johannesburg has become an unlivable city. So when I was there, when I was a student there, yes, there was crime, there was hardship, but it was like Toronto. There's crime here, there's hardship here, there's people living on the streets here. We still went about our lives, we went about our days, and we got on with things. And then when I went back 6 years ago, I was quite shocked when I went to the campus because there are these big bars and gates to even go into the campus. And they had told them I was coming, so they pre-arranged it. They knew I was going to be there. And the security guard had obviously been informed that I was coming, because when I arrived, he said, "Belinda, you here to see Peter Maher?" I said, "Yes, I am." And I think they had sent them my photo, so he said, "Oh, you can come in." So everything is secure. Like, you have to have a card to get in, to get out, and East and West Campus are joined, which wasn't the case when I was there. There was a road going through the East and the West Campus. So it's good to go back to see how things change, but I'm sad that despite all the efforts we make from here, despite everything we're doing, it doesn't look like things are getting better there. And so for those of us who are here, it's discouraging, it's disparaging, because it's like we want to see things change, because that also affects our reputation here. It's the top university in South Africa. And so if we're going asking for funding, if we're asking for help, we want to see that things are changing there. What is encouraging is to see that there is still funding going through from America, from the Ford Foundation, from Microsoft, from big companies that are investing in the university. And so that at least helps us to know, because we know then there's accountability on how the funds are being used, where that money is going, and in how the standards are being kept. And when we look at God's idea of leadership, when we look at what is God expecting of us when we are servants of others, we consider what servant leadership is. So in the human economy, it's about pursuing power and prestige, and it's about where you live. It's about the size of your house. What car are you driving? Are you driving a Mercedes-Benz, or are you driving a second-hand car? Are you wearing the latest fashion when you go for your interviews, or are you dressed appropriately, even if it's not the latest Armani and whatever the latest brands are? In the human economy, we're looking at improving wealth and status of a leader. So an example I can give is when our Pope came, when Pope Francis came. Normally when world leaders come, when popes come, when dignitaries come, you'll see that the couple will go, the world leaders, they'll go, the husband and wife, to meet him. There'll be a whole entourage there. People will be there to welcome them. When the Pope came, it was only Prime Minister Trudeau there, Justin Trudeau. And there was no red carpet. There was nothing. There was nobody there to welcome him, to say, yes, we know you're here. There was nothing. Then if you look at the third point, in the human economy, we see others as enemies and competitors. So it's a scarcity world. It's a scarcity mindset. It's like there's not enough for everyone. If you get that, I can't get that. If you have that, I can't have that. So we're always competing to get the same things. And then when it comes to motive, it's to remove or kill the opposition. It's not about dialogue. So if you look at how many attempted assassinations we've had and assassinations we've had recently, it's the same thing as that used to happen in the 70s. We used to have the shooting down of aeroplanes, Samora Machel. We had people taken down in public. And that's happening again now in our societies. We saw it with the Japanese leader that got assassinated. And we're seeing it in terrifying ways, where people are even building their guns at home, and they're making these makeshift guns, and they're going and they're killing people. And it's terrifying when you see the shooting on a campus, a place of learning, a place that is supposed to be for having diverse ideas, having discussions, having mindsets where people can oppose each other. And you don't have to be vehement about it, you don't have to be aggressive about it, but you can disagree. You can bring different viewpoints forward. It's terrifying to see it happening in the learning environment. And the fifth point, in the human economy, the result is that the leader is glorified and everybody else we're just minions. We're just there to do the work. It's the people on the top who are important. And in God's economy, we see that God is calling us to the pursuit of love and service to others, to improving the welfare of people, other people. We see people as brothers who complement each other. So it's not about the competition, it's about strengths and weaknesses being combined so that things work together. The motive is to meet needs and grow the cause. So what is our cause? Our cause is building up peace, stability, justice. Our cause is building up God's economy, knowing that we don't operate in a scarce world, we operate in an abundant world. And the result is not glorification of ourselves and what we have achieved, but it's glorification of the Lord. It's glorification of God. So if you join the Maxwell team, if you come into the Maxwell team, our stories of resilience, of overcoming, of whatever it is that we are doing, we have God at the center of that. Because one day you're going to leave all this behind. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, but one day you're going to leave all this behind and you're going to leave it to somebody else. So hopefully you'll have left things better than you found them, wherever you are. And the question for us is, whose economy are you following? The human economy or God's economy? And whichever economy we're following, we're making choices. It's the same when we have our dreams, when we put our dreams to the test. When we talk to people, not everyone's going to agree with our dreams. Not everyone's going to support them. You can talk to 3 different people and get 3 different answers. But if we know that what our dream is, we have to be able to stick to that dream and to follow it through. And in a secular country like Canada, it's not easy to do it because the rights and responsibilities of everybody have to be balanced. And you have different cultures, you have different people, you have different ways of looking at things. So thankfully, so far, we haven't had people being assassinated here, but we have in America. And we have had school shootings. We've had people stoning our prime ministers. So we have had different things come up. And John Maxwell gives a picture or an idea of when you have a pole is placed in a field and on top of that pole there's a bunch of bananas. So the monkeys all go and they try to get the bananas at the top, and each time they go a bucket of water is thrown on them. So some of the monkeys give up and they go away. Others of the monkeys keep trying, and others of the monkeys will wait for a new partner so they can try together. So in this social experiment of Canada, we are the monkeys in their eyes, unless you see yourself as God created you, as a human being. And if the monkey gets hurt too many times, the monkey eventually stops trying until the monkey finds a new way of doing things. So it's an ideology, it's an example. It's like Pavlov's dog theory about if you do this, you get this result. If you do that, you get a different result. And it depends on getting through that obstacle course. You know, when we were children, when we were at Russell School, we used to have a race that was called the obstacle race. And so when you did that race at the beginning, you'd have to run and then you'd have to pick something up, whether it was a baton or a potato or something. You'd have to pick it up and then you would run and then you'd get to the next obstacle. It was like say a hurdle that you had to jump over. And then when you got to the next obstacle, it would be a sack. And then you'd have to jump into that sack and finish the race in that sack. So whoever overcomes all those obstacles would be the winner of the race. And that's how life is. There are obstacles that come in our way. There are different challenges. There are different things that happen to us. But we have to keep going through those obstacles. And then one day when we die, we'll be able to go back to the Lord and to look at how we navigated all these obstacles of life. So that's the teaching for today. You can reflect on it. You can think of your own examples of how do you build up God's economy using your skills, your talents, your ideas, and how you can change things where you are. Some of us are very far away from South Africa, so there's not much we can do from here. But some of us do make trips, even if it's after 20 years, we'll make the effort to go back to see things, because unless you go and you're there on the ground, you can't see things, you can't get an idea of what's happening. Today there's a lot of fake videos, there's a lot of fake websites, so we rely on people in our networks on the ground, people who know what's happening, to tell us. I jump on calls that I held between here and Africa. I do different things. I read newspapers that have their perspective, because if I want to take my teaching and go and teach it there, I also need to understand what it is that will work there and what it is that the challenges are. So going back helps me, and also looking for the funding. I have to be able to speak to that about what I'm doing, what my aims are, what my plans are. And I'll leave it with that. Maybe it's not the full amount of time, but I'll leave it with that. And for you to think about your own ways that you can apply it where you are.